Hey everybody, Doug here from 2 Plus Stuff. Welcome to another WYR Reforging, my not so podcast, but becoming a podcast, pretty regular show talking about AoS Sigmar and all kinds of stuff like that. This one's going to be a little bit different. I don't have a ton of pre-planned topics, but I wanted to go over the Flesh Eater Quartz preview that came out today, share it with people. I'll throw it up on the screen, but I'll try to remember to speak about what I'm looking at so that people listening in the podcast can follow along with us. So if you are listening later, pull up the article and we can go through together. But in the meantime, while I'm doing all this, I'm going to be working on some more of my Zangor stuff as I get paint broken off from the lid of the canister all over my fingers. It's not really a great start, but we'll go with it. And yeah, so basically, for those of you who can't see, it's 9 Zangor dudes, 3 Enlightened on disc, and then 6 Skyfires. And actually, for everyone else, I will go ahead and point the camera down so you can take a look at them. And basically, the riders are almost done. I'm going to highlight the armor, basically, while I'm doing this episode, and then have to dive into the discs, and the discs are the last part. They've been base coated, but need to go back and do all the trim and things like that. So we'll get there over time. But yeah, let's see here. So while we have this going on, I'm going to get my setup ready for us to go take a look at what's going on at GW, because I'm loving how fast and heavy they're bringing out battle tomes and things like that. I'm absolutely out of my mind excited about it. We were just chatting about it with the Rerolling Ones guys about just how aggressively they've been pushing. My hope and prayer is that they're going to push AoS 2nd edition just as quickly as they pushed 40K. In terms of getting all the armies on the same edition would be huge. All right, got my chat there on the right. Hey, everybody. Welcome for joining me. Thank you so much, so much. What I'm going to do, as I always do, is go through a little bit of the article and then hop over to the chat, answer any questions, then hop back and forth, that kind of stuff. But always make it clear what I'm doing. So we got here the Flesh Eater Quartz article, Death Battle Tome, Flesh Eater Quartz, The Lowdown, which is a fun way of putting it. And so they kind of go through, hey, it's Flesh Eater Quartz, people love them. They kind of call them a tournament favorite, which I'm not sure how accurate that is, but that's awesome. It's an army I certainly love. Let's see here. They start off with some really great artwork, which is interesting. I was kind of worried that if they go back to redo the older battle tomes, they wouldn't invest in new artwork, but it looks like that is not the case, which is very exciting to me as someone who loves artwork for lore videos and things like that. It goes into allegiance abilities, doesn't waste a lot of time. So the Flesh Eater Quartz allegiance abilities are similar to those found in the last General's Handbook, but have been given some considerable improvements. As an alternative to picking a delusion for your army, you'll have the choice of selecting a Grand Court instead. Feeding Frenzy, a key Flesh Eater Quartz ability, is also a bit better. Rather than occasionally getting to fight in twice in the same phase after you destroy a unit, now it's a command ability, giving you more freedom. So what it used to be was like after you pile in, they had a random chance to get another combat. They would be able to pile in again. This is saying, no, we're just going to take that and buff units. So the way they reworded Feeding Frenzy now, so that unit can immediately make pile in and then attack with all melee weapons for a second time. You can't pick the same unit twice. So that makes sense. So yeah. Effectively, if you've got command points, you can keep buffing things up. And we see this with, well, it's sort of like an alternative way of doing the Gabe spawn thing where they get bonus attacks, but this is a second entire pile-in. If you consider, well, we don't know if they're going to change the War Scrolls or not to reflect it, but Crypticals can get a lot of attacks, so that's pretty amazing. People are kind of comparing it with the stat lines that they are now, which I don't think is necessarily going to be the case, but they would be really cool. And they introduced the idea called Grand Courts, which seem to be sort of like storm hosts, things like that, where you dedicate your army to this thing, they take their identity, and they get a special bonus, but they're probably locked into an artifact, that kind of junk. Sorry about that, got some water here. Basically, the preview one they give us is called the Blister Skins Grand Court. They come from Akshi, and they worship the realm of light. So worship, I guess, the sun. You can dedicate your army to them, and you get loads of nifty abilities. So the abilities you get for being a blister skin, whatever it is, you get plus 2 inches to your move characteristic, just flat. Any unit that has that keyword blister skin gets that, which is awesome. These guys being more speedy, more aggressive with that volume of attacks. It's like you can make this the death version of Daughters of Cain to a smaller degree with that many crypticals flying at you. And let's see there, it looks like their command ability is if this general is on the battlefield at the start of hero phase, roll a dice. On a 4-up, you receive 1 additional command point, which is nice to buff up your feeding frenzy. Gristlegore, on the other hand, which is apparently another Stormhost type thing, lets you make the most of your monsters, even unlocks Royal Zombie Dragons and Royal Terrorgeists as battle line choices. If the unmodified, and this goes into what I'm assuming is a command ability. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made by a Gristlegore hero or Gristlegore monster is 6, that inflicts 2 hits on the target rather than 1. Make a save. So yeah, it's just their like allegiance ability. It's not a command ability. So sweet. They got some cool stuff. A little bit of diversity there. You can choose to be different things. And then we move into some of the other details here. We got Flesh Eater Courts have their own very magical lore, and I'm just going to cover. They give us 2 spells I want to talk about here. And first one's a little bit wordy. So Blood Feast has a casting value of 7. If cast, pick 1 enemy unit within 12 inches of the caster that is visible to them, and the friendly Flesh Eater Courts unit within 6 inches of that enemy unit. So you have to have an enemy that is within 12 of a caster and within 6 of a Flesh Eater Courts unit. The enemy suffers D3 mortal wounds. If the casting roll is 10 or more, it suffers D6 mortal wounds. Then, for each mortal wound that was inflicted to the enemy, you can heal 1 wound allocated to the friendly unit. Okay, so yeah, I guess what they're trying to orchestrate here is that you have your wizard, a unit nearby, both of them are near an enemy unit, and you basically suck the life force and feed it to the other unit who's not the wizard. If the friendly unit has a wounds characteristic of 1, for each mortal wound that was inflicted, you can return 1 slain model to the friendly unit instead. So you can buff up your numbers. I was kind of worried when the book was being rewritten that they would kind of lose the ability to add models to existing units, and it does not look like that's true, which is awesome. Spectral Host has a casting value of 6. If successfully cast, pick 1 friendly unit wholly within 12 inches of the caster visible to them. That unit can fly until your next hero phase. Awesome. If that unit can already fly until your next hero phase, it can run and still charge in the same turn. Okay, so what can fly in Flesh Eater Courts? Crypt Flayers and the Dragons and Terrorgeists. And the Courtier guy who leads them. And the Vargulf. Okay. If the casting value is 10 or more, you can pick up to 3 friendly units to be affected by the spell, except for 1. So a lot of those, both of these have like a, if you cast blank much, then you get a bonus. Like it's even more incredibly powerful. That's cool. This one definitely seems less useful than the first one. I think it's still going to be an attrition-focused army, but this is really neat stuff. Let's see here. Then it goes into some traits and artifacts, and they just give us, looks like 1. Death in Disguise. Let's see here. Oh, let's see. Battletome Flesh Eater Courts packed with command traits and artifacts for customizing heroes. There's even a set of mount traits for your chosen Royal Zombie Dragon or Terrorgeist. Now, here's a thing that I love, and they do it for Stormcast, but not much else, where like the mounts themselves get additional rules, and that's really, really cool. The one they give us for one of the mounts, instead of setting up the model on the battlefield, you can place it to one side and say it is soaring in the skies in reserve. If you do so at the end of your first movement phase, you must set it up on the battlefield more than 9 inches from enemy units. That one's probably not great. I'm not going to lie to you, as a Beast of Chaos player, where I don't like being forced to have to deploy on the first turn because the game state has not changed a whole lot. But, you know, I get it. It's a cool option, you know, especially if you go second. You're planning to give your opponent the first turn when they'll kind of come forward and spread out a little bit to give you more options. But yeah, it's cool. So that is the Flesh Eater Courts preview. I know Jack from Rolling Ones is super excited. He's showing us some conversions he's doing. Very excited to see what he comes up with and all that stuff. So what are your guys' thoughts? I'm going to pan over to the chat here. We'll just see what's going on. It's still filling up. Let's see here. them being a favorite in competitive scenes sounds like fake news. Absolutely. But you never know. I mean, they probably have like a super different perspective of like what gets taken a lot based on like what the actual designers see and the news guys see. Because you'll see some lists come out of like the UK area or Australia, and you're like, nobody takes that in America. But yeah, I get your point. I'm just going to load some paint up here and get ready to start painting. Okay. Gage Porter. Love the name. It's awesome. I'm still new to AoS. Haven't played my first game yet, but I'm thinking Zombie Dragon Terrorgeist as battle line sounds pretty overpowered. Not really. I would doubt it if it was, because the thing about those kinds of units, I'm explaining this because you're new, and hopefully this will be of some value to you. They're super expensive and they're only one model. So for a lot of these missions, you have to have more models than your opponent on an objective. And your one Zombie Dragon Terrorgeist, or Zombie Dragon Terrorgeist, yeah, that'd be kind of fun to watch. But your, Terrorgeist, whatever, whoever's riding it, the hero's riding it, it still only counts as one model. So they would have to kill everything to be able to claim that objective. And so it's not overpowered, but it is cool. I'll give you that one. Kenzie says, worshipping the realm of light seems like a really interesting concept. Are some realms viewed like mythological settings for certain cultures? Probably. I mean, Shyish is a collection of underworlds and afterlives kind of put together. Like a people group in any other realm will have what they perceive heaven or Valhalla or whatever the afterlife looks like, and it will be created in Shyish. When they all die, they go there, and then as the last person who thinks of that, we'll say Valhalla, dies, that place dissipates. And so, yeah. As a shout out, I'll put a link to it down below if I remember after this. We do have a Discord now, a Discord chat, a joint one with the guys from Rerolling Ones. We're just getting ready to launch one, and I was actually going to launch one strictly for pictures for like people to send me what they're working on. And they were kind enough to let me just kind of tack on to theirs what they were doing. So big thanks to those guys. I really super appreciate it. It's in, I know, the latest Rerolling Ones video for sure, and I'm going to do a video here in a little bit promoting it as well. Super great community. Everyone's being really nice. Keep that trend up if you decide to join. Let me see here. Okay, sorry, Kenzie, I thought you said he did put those up. I will tell Jack to put those up in the Discord. Take Over Mars. I really hope they get new models at some point. Still, I feel like it's lacking, even with hero conversions. They're not that different. I like them. I think they're fine. I think there are other factions that are hurting worse, but I see people's points. Everybody wants new models. I just want rules. I want rules to be able to play things out in a more fun way. So I'm going to go ahead and pan the camera down, and we can get to painting. Here we go. And here we are. Okay. So one of the topics I wanted to bring up today, and if people have not watched it, earlier today I released a battle report, my first, I guess, full, real, I don't know what the word is, battle report on the channel. And it's been met with a lot of positivity, and I'm, first of all, very humbled by that. And was just kind of spent a good portion of my day kind of like dwelling on the feedback that I was getting. And it's been absolutely awesome. And I'm going to answer questions in the chat here in just a second. One of the things that was brought up to my attention was just I don't want to say nitpicky. Nitpicky sounds negative, but they were incredibly helpful, insightful. Minor details as far as like camera angles, stuff like that. And so what I wanted to share was just that I will, based on people's feedback, keep doing battle reports. It's going to be a semi-regular thing. The channel was built upon lore and engaging stories, and so that's going to be the main premise still. That video took so much time to do. Oh, sorry, did I bump it? Let me get my mic a little closer here. Okay, how's that? So yeah, lore videos will continue, but I did put a battle report today, and it was Slaves to Darkness versus my Beast of Chaos, and I think it went pretty well. It was different. I don't know. I got that comment a lot. People have been like, it's, different. Like, I don't know what that means. Like in terms of a good or bad. Different is just different. But yeah. Let's see. Go over the chat here. I believe it's Danilo. But I pronounced that. I'm sorry. Hey, Doug, do you think we may see any Soulblight stuff merge with Flesh Eater Courts? I doubt it, but that'd be cool. Also, I'm fairly certain they'd at least be able to be allies, I would think. Maybe not. I'm not sure what Flesh Eater Court right now, their ally situation is. But, yeah, I don't know. They could go a lot of different directions. I really want them to, like, update a lot of things in terms of, like, their relation to other death armies and that kind of stuff. And Kinsey is correct that bat reps will be great during a dry spell during releases, which right now we are in anything but a dry spell because Flesh Eater Courts and Skaven is coming out. But, you know, once the fire hose that is GW releases turns back to 40k and Necromunda and all the other things they're always doing, we will probably have a lull. I remember when Carriage and Overlords came out, we were all super pumped. And then it was just like silence for like a few months or something like that. It was one of those factions. I can't remember which one exactly. But, and then I think, not sure which one came out next. But yeah, there was this big gap in time and I was like, oh, they've just stopped producing things. This makes the channel get really rough. And that's exactly the kind of stuff where battle reports would come in. Eventually they are going to tell one grander narrative. And that's exciting for me. I just want to be a storyteller at heart. That's what the channel is built upon. You know, how do we take these lore things that I've been talking about for 3 years and make a game out of them? How do we make a story? And part of it is very D&D-ish in the sense of like you're watching the game and I'm telling you what this means in terms of like how it affects the game state. Kind of like if you roll a D20 that Game Master will tell you what that means, kind of stuff. But yeah, it was overall received very well. The main criticisms were regarding my camera, which is literally just my phone, and not doing enough, like, I guess, panoramic shots for people. And that's okay. You know what? I'm okay with that as far as criticism goes. No one was like, your art is bad and you should feel bad, which is always the fear. I was extremely nervous releasing it because it's new. You know, whenever you release something new, you always get nervous. It doesn't matter how many people subscribe to your channel. Whenever you put yourself out there as someone who creates content, it's a little nerve-wracking. So I was a little more than overjoyed when I woke up this morning and there was some comments on there already about people liking it. So it made me feel good. It was one thing that I did learn is that I can't do any more until I upgrade my computer. I need to get an external hard drive for it. But yeah, the file sizes were just too stinking massive. And let's get a comment here. MMXCI, different as in different concept and approach to it. Not a whole lot to compare to in contrast in the normal way of battle reports. It's true. That's something people were talking about. They're like, hey, I want to hear like banter and stuff like that. It's like, well, it's kind of a fluid story. Banter doesn't quite fit in, but I'll try to make that work. I'll at least have like maybe the two warlord characters duking it out or something. Anyway, so that was basically it for the news. Just want to talk about that. Kinsey said, I think the effects are pretty cool. Add some visual flair. I think Mini Wargaming needs to take some cues from the style. Mini Wargaming has borrowed concepts from both us and Rerolling Ones. I have no doubt they'll take some cues from other stuff as well. It's all good. It's all on the internet. It's free. There's nothing... I mean, I borrowed a whole bunch of stuff from, what do you call it, Frontline Gaming? Frontline Gaming, like 2 years ago, did narrative battle reports, and then it just, like, stopped. And so I don't know if they just lost interest in the game or what. I thought the battle report was awesome. Thank you. Narrative battle reports are the whole reason I decided to go into model building. Yeah, you don't see a whole lot of them. There was a gentleman who did narrative battle reports, who did he had a Spider Fang army. I can't remember the name of the channel. And then when the Gloomspite book came out, I don't think his army worked, and so he got a little discouraged and stopped. Maybe it was before then. I'm not quite sure. But, to each their own. I get it. Some people are always disappointed whenever a book comes out. I'm sure when the Skaven book drops, many Skaven players will be very upset because whatever they were doing isn't working anymore. And that's okay. Most folks always give it a, I don't know. I'm pretty pleased by most releases, but I'm also a pretty easygoing guy. Let's see here. I'm slowly cranking through. For those who can't see, I am basically painting the teal. All the armor and tabards and all that stuff like that for my Zangor units are always teal. Because the skin is this pale dead skin from the Gave spawn. I don't know what they call it. Great Fray, that's what it is. That's their term for Stormhost or like that. Great Fray. So everything kind of looks undead-y. And then has this nice bright Zinchi and teal stuff to it. Make it all pop nice. Alright. And see, I'm trying to think of what else is going on recently. Oh, I played a game last Thursday. Game nights are on Thursdays. I want to talk about this because I played against a awesome person. Her name's Carrie, and I'm not sure if they're significant others or related or what. Jace is his name. But basically, they're going to LVO, and she wanted some practice with her tournament Nurgle list before she went down. And I was like, I don't know Beast of Chaos super well, but I'm super happy to give you a game. And I'm trying to get a community going on Thursday nights, and so I thought it would be really cool. And so she showed up, and she took a Maggotkin of Nurgle list that was basically like the all-demon battalion, the Taliban, and 2 of the Nurgle heroes that allow you, I think they're whatever the new ones that came out with the shields are. That basically it's a command ability you can convert to a unit where it gives them like -1 to hit and shooting and -2 in melee or some junk. Basically, it's a bunch of plague bearers that go sit on an objective and you can't dislodge them. And so I took my Beast of Chaos, and I got first turn because I took the Phantasmagoria of Fate, the Tzeentch battalion. She wanted to be power gaming, and that's what she was going to LVO for. It wasn't like a narrative list. It was meant to punish. And so I brought something that I thought would give her a run for money. So I brought the Phantasmagoria of Fate, which allowed me to be a 1-drop Beast of Chaos army. And I had, a block of 30 Gore, 30 Bestigore, 2 units of 10 Ungore, and I don't know, a few other things. Heroes here and there. And it was the first time I actually fielded the Skyfires, and afterwards Jack was like, well, what'd you think about him? What'd you think? And I was like, well, I played against an opponent who had -2 to hit everything. I don't feel like I got a good sense of how good they are, which is true. But they're really cool. The mobility alone is incredible of disc units, any Zangor type on a disc. And basically the way it structured out, we played, oh my goodness, the one where both of you have an objective and there's 2 in the center, and yours is worth 1 point, the middle one's worth 2 points, and your enemy's is worth 4 points. And so I had first turn. I was like, okay, I just got to get there, and I just got to plop on these objectives, because her demons are not super killy, like at all, in any way, shape, or form. And so I blitzed forward. The unit of Bestigores made it across the entire table, did a turn 1 charge, and I tied up Great Unclean One, a big old thing of Plague Bearers. Skyfires came over and sniped out one of those Maggotkin heroes that allows her to do all kinds of like negative to hit modifiers. And basically I sat on the objectives, and the one on the right, she couldn't dislodge me. On the one on the left, she managed to clear out the Ungore chaff and sat on that one, and so basically just timed me out. She did some really great moves with the Blight drones and moved back and claimed my objective for 1 turn. But yeah, so it was good. But the game ended, what, turn 4, and we were tied on turn 3. She was above me on 1 point, and it's technically possible for me to have pulled it out, pull out the win, but it was highly unlikely. And it was getting a little late, so I just went ahead and called it. I mean, she would have been well past. Like, if we were playing at LVO, like where they have a timer and stuff like that for your rounds, it would have ended in a draw, most likely. And we kind of went through that as far as like ways to speed her up. But overall, it was an extremely good game. The point of bringing this up is I did much better than I thought I was going to do, like against a tournament list. Again, I think the big thing was that her list was designed to play for the objectives, and that's exactly what my list does too. Like I just get there faster. And so since her army is sorely lacking in ways to remove models, she has the Grid and Clean one who can cast spells with that, but for the most part, there's not a lot going on to remove models. I managed to claim them, and for the most part, just sat on there and won it out. So yeah, it was, all in all, pretty good stuff, I must say. I'm excited to play again. I don't know. I still have some reservations on how the Beasts of Chaos are like supposed to win without Zangor at this point, to be honest with you. But this coming weekend, I have CanCon, Beast Lord himself, Joel, guy who came in 4th at CanCon with Beasts of Chaos. He's going to be on the show, and we're going to chat all about how he makes Beasts of Chaos work. So I'm very excited about that. And this week, I'm also picking up a whole bunch of Carriage and Overlords. So I'm very excited about that too. And Gage Porter, you just donated $5 to the cause. Thank you so much. He says, love your content. Everything I know about Mortal Realms, I learned from your lore videos. Well, thank you so much. That means so much to me. That folks are willing to donate and just find value in what I do. So I will continue making lore videos just for you, Gage Porter. And yeah, have a blast. But, you know, telling the stories is actually my favorite part. I like the battle reports. It was a lot of fun. But just doing I guess traditional for me lore video, always a blast. Mainly because I fall in love with the book whenever I touch it. And this is actually the curse of doing what I do. Every single time a battle tome comes out. Every single time. My poor friends, or Rolling Ones, we have a group chat together, and I'm always like, I love this army. I want to play this army. How much is a Clan Pestilence army? When I was doing that lore series, like, no, I don't want a Clan Pestilence army, but I kind of want a Clan Pestilence army. Going back and forth. So that's why they're good friends. Kinsey asks, will that Joel interview be in Making a Beast Lord? Yes, it will. Yep. I hope to ask me a few questions about just what it takes to be 4th at CanCon in terms of like practice with your list, things that are applicable to, you know, just by every faction. But yeah, I think it'll be part of the Making a Beast Lord series for sure. Tiger Mars, I'm constantly looking at new armies. I think I caught it from you. I mean, if it's contagious, I've got 14,000 people who are infected. I know it's not, because I have people who follow my channel, and then they're like, dude, it stresses me out every time you get to switch armies. I had somebody comment that once, and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. This is not going to stop. Yeah, you know, for the Carriage and Overlords, honestly, what it really is I just need to paint something that's not flesh. I'm still keeping the Beast of Chaos, because I do want to play an army at events all year round, because I want to go to more events this year. But the thing is like, I got through the Zangor portion of these Enlightened and Skyfires, and I was like, I'm done. I've, in the last month and a half, painted 60 models for this. It's a horde army. I have a horde-based army. So it just gets very overwhelming. So, but hopefully the cool uniforms and rivets and airships and that kind of stuff will be nice. I don't know actually what all I'm getting. I gave friend of the show, Parker, my budget, and I was like, you know, I'll take this. I need some battle line and a hero, but I'm not actually sure. He's like, yeah, I'll hook you up. So I'm not quite sure what I'm getting. But it should be very exciting. You know, it's one of those things like, there was a guy, he went, won 5 games and lost one at CanCon as well with Carriage and Overlords. Admittedly, he had 2 units of evocators allied in, which is nothing wrong with that. I probably wouldn't, just for narrative reasons, but that's awesome. You know, he did so well with them. And that, I don't know, I saw someone online say like, oh, well, he allied in some stuff so it like diminishes his results in some way. I'm like, no way. That guy is amazing. Like, I don't know. Taking allies, it's part of the game mechanics. You know, if you want to go compete or make a story arc, it's what it's there for. I think a Bone Splitter's army allied with Spider Fang would be amazing narratively, and everyone should do it. Let's see here. Mythic Mason, you probably answered this before, but where did you get your Beast Lord that was in your battle report today? So I got it from a friend of the show, Brent, over at Rerolling Ones. And what it is, if you would like to make one for yourself, it is Scar Bloodwrath, the Khorne hero from the Khorne Battle Tome. And you just put a Bestigor head on him. That's all there is to it. If you look at the model, the funny thing about Scar Bloodwrath is they made him with hooved feet. And so when you just put a Bestigor head on him, he slides into the army pretty much flawlessly. I wish that the, what do you call them? Do the Wrathmongers, do they have hoofed feet? I don't think they do. But yeah, no, because bull stuff, or looking like a bull, is a very Khorne thing. So I think that kind of leads into that. Very cool things. But I'm glad you liked it. And people have asked me that all day, and I'm happy to answer it because it's a conversion that I did not do, but I am so excited about. I love those ones where it's just a head swap and it looks super different. Or, I mean, part of it is because it's Scar Bloodwrath, and frankly, no one plays him that much. He's really good as a super killy solo, but in terms of like a larger strategy, he doesn't offer too much. There's lots of super killy heroes in Khorne. That's what they're all about. I don't think if those evocators have so much power as to directly influence the CanCon result. They actually do. And the reason I say that is because, first of all, they're wizards in a faction, Carriage and Overlords, that doesn't have any wizards. So they add a lot to the army in that sense. But also, Carriage and Overlords don't have really any ways to do mortal wounds. They have a few bombs here or there, but they're very situational. Like, you have to be charged and then you can drop a bomb. So their lightning ability to barf mortal wounds on a unit is super crazy good. And so that's kind of what they add. He did a list right up on The Honest Wargamer where he kind of explained like, hey, I was going between the balloon guys, which are one of their melee attack units, engine masters, riggers, I think it is, engine riggers, and the evocators. And the evocators, just for their point cost, they just add so much to the army that I totally understand why he went for it. So they're a huge addition, but I think that says more about the poor points balancing of evocators than it does about Carriage and Overlords. But even then, you know, like, I get inundated with questions. It happens in the Discord as well, of people saying like, hey, here's what I want to take. Is this lore friendly? And I just want to reiterate and make it very firm on this channel that, like, take whatever you want. Like, so many crazy stories come out of these books that, like, first and foremost, like, if you want to take evocators and you have a story built around that, like these wizards are helping these dwarves find an artifact, that is a story and it's awesome and you should do it. Make your model. There was a guy in the Discord chat who was like, is there a reason why the wizards from, I don't know what they called, I always forget their name, the dark elf stuff that's just like spearmen and junk, is there a reason why their wizards are always women, like the sorceress models? And I said, no, I mean, I think they gave like a line of mention in the order book that they were female, but like, dude, if you want to say like one of them has like a secret male apprentice, like, go make that army. That sounds awesome. Go do it. So, I don't know. I'm a huge advocate. Like, they destroyed the whole old world setting to give you narrative room to do literally anything, including titanic beasts that shouldn't exist and that kind of stuff. Like, don't stifle yourself. Go do whatever you want to do. Have fun. Darkling Coven, thank you so much. I don't know why. There's like a mental block. It's an army that I have legitimately considered starting multiple times, but then I just think about, like, it's just a lot of infantry. All I do is paint infantry all day, and I go insane. And so, but they're rad models, and I think their allegiance ability, they're up there to me with like Free Peoples, where I just love it. Like it's so simple. The Free Peoples one actually a little more wordy, but like it's very simple in concept and just a lot of fun. So basically, if you don't know Darkling Covens, all their infantry units have like a clause. And this is pretty common in AoS, where it's like, if this unit has 20 or more models, then you get to do blank, right? An extra attack or a reroll or whatever it is. But their allegiance ability says you don't just count the number of models in your unit, you count the models anywhere near that unit. So if you have 2 units next to each other, they count for each other's model count. So if you have 2 10-man units next to each other, they both count as having 20 models in them. And I was like, that is the coolest thing, because it so rewards you for being like this orderly rank and file, all this stuff. I just love it so stinking much. Let's see, Terror Mars. No battle tome doesn't mean anything. I'm starting Scourge Privateers as well as Darkling Covens. Scourge Privateers, we're at CanCon. That guy, he runs one of the Age of Sigmar fan groups on Facebook. Super cool guy. Sorry, I got a little detail part there. Super cool guy, and yeah, he did pretty good. He got his face stomped on the stream, I believe, but he did win his first game before that. And is just generally a cool dude with a nice army. I like the Scourge Privateers because they all have guns. And I really, after playing Fire Slayers, where they all can all throw their axes, I gotta say, having a bunch of units that have a decent ranged attack, you know, the Fire Slayers are 4x4s, I think. You know, a decent ranged attack, but also having a melee attack to back it up, like, there's just so much value in that. I just think it's so stinking cool. Wish they would add more elf factions. I could not agree more. I think, you know, even with Daughters of Cain and Idoneth Deepkin, I think Elves and Duwarden, like if they just said, hey everybody, for the next 2 months, that's all we're going to focus on, that would make me the most happy person ever, because they're armies that so many people own models for, that they've just been collecting dust forever. And I'm really glad that one very narrow subset of Dark Elf players who could afford to buy Daughters of Cain or whatever they were back in the day could get a battle tome. But like everyone else, the vast bulk of people are just like, I want an army. As far as which of those I'd like to see the most, Dispossessed is top of my list. And what else besides that? For an elven one, Phoenix Temple is cool, as well as the whatever the Dragon Princes one is, has the big dragons and the princes on it. Also cool stuff. Let's see. Zek Judd said he's working on his Daughters of Cain army. That's awesome. Let's see here. Kenzie wants to see Wanderers. Yeah, I know Mark from Rerolling Ones is also in the Wanderers camp. They, I don't know, they're interesting. They're in a really cool place where, like, they've been mentioned a few times. Kind of like, I mean, other things have been mentioned too. But they seem to have a very integral part in the way of whatever happened in the realm of life when it fell and Alariel became, I don't know, super sad, depressed. So I'm curious and excited to, I don't know, to see what happens there. Circus 36 says he's putting together Slash Fiends. That's awesome. I absolutely love it. I haven't actually, I've seen the models in person, but I haven't actually played against them at all. I'm very excited to do so. I know Jack is building some, I believe. I think he got some online. But yeah, I mean, they're just killer models. I don't know what they do. I didn't actually read the previews or whatever like that. I'm not a big preview guy. I'm one of those guys who's just like, I learned by doing, and I'll just lose to them a few times, then I'll figure it out. I agree. Jack is the man. He his Slaanesh army is pretty top notch. He's been adding to it. If you haven't followed it, you should go check out their latest battle report where it's Stormcast versus Stormcast. You can see Jack's Shootcast, his tournament list that he brings around to the local area, and he was excited to get those all painted because then he's going to jump into his Slaanesh, and that's going to be his project until that book comes out. So I could not be more excited for him. I always like when people like, I don't know, they just really fall in love with a particular army. It makes me sad when those armies don't seem to be supported. Like, there's so many Dispossessed fans out there that are just like, no, I want more. And I totally get that. Gage Porter says, I just finished painting my first Morghast. So many crevices. I hated painting the Morghast. I had a little Death Army. Well, I shouldn't say little. It was pretty massive. Death Army at one point. And I had to paint Morghast. Like, I think I got through 2 out of 4 of them. And I was like, nope. I just put them on the shelf. So many details. So much trim on the armor. And all the cracks in the bones and things like that. Oh, they're so good looking now. When they're done, they look so good. Let's see here. Does anyone in the chat right now play Flesh Eater Courts? I'm curious, some opinions. I mean, going back and forth in my mind, I'm one of those people that, like, when I first look at a model, sometimes I don't love it. And then it fits for a few reasons. It could be like sometimes GW, like their art or their photography, like takes models at weird angles. And so you're like, I don't think I like it, but I'm not quite sure. But I'm having a lot of trouble with their endless spells. Their endless spells just don't grip me. And I was wondering if anyone in the chat feels the same way, or if you feel the complete opposite and you're like, Doug, you're insane. I love the horses. I'll give you that one. The horses are rad. But as far as the Chalice, I'm not a big fan of. I'm still on the fence about the throne, the terrain piece. But I'd love to hear an actual player's thoughts. I don't like the ghouls and triple mini kit. Not sure about the triple mini kit. Not sure what that's referring to. Dig the Arborant Archregent. Yeah, he's a baller model. He was not even part of my discussion just because he looks so stinking good. Let me grab some black here. I am indeed on the fence about the fence. Actually, the fence I'm pretty cool with. Like, if it's just like a, what do you call it? Prismatic Palisade kind of equivalent where it's just a wall you can block off your opponent. I think it looks pretty rad for a wall. I'm not going to lie. Of all the walls you had to bring, that's a pretty cool one. Okay, cool. We got some pushback from Carl Franz. Carl freaking Franz. Y'all are crazy. I'm digging the throne. That's awesome. August says, hey Doug, new Flesh Eater Court book looks so great. I'm digging. I'm going to run loving all my Terrorgeists in one list as battle line. Yeah, dude. Oh, interesting. So Gage Porter says, I'm tempted to buy the Bone Throne, which is that's an awesome and terrible name at the same time. The Bone Throne. I love it. Just to add narrative for my White King. That'd be a great, if you're rolling like a display board, it'd be a great piece. Okay, so I'm going to move into black. We're going to get basically all of the horns, or like talons and stuff on the side of these discs are going to match the horns of the Zangor and, well, not just the Zangor, all of the Beasts of Chaos in my army. The Gave Spawn thing has black horns, so I'll make these guys match. Yeah, I've talked about terrain kind of to death. I feel bad berating it more, but yeah, I'm always concerned. I just don't want it to be in a rut where it's like you get a bunch of older armies that don't have any new models coming out, and like, oh, just give them endless spells and terrain. It's like, oh, well, Everything needs terrain. I don't even care about models. I'm one of those people, like, when Beast of Chaos came out and people were complaining about the lack of model support, or new models, I should say, didn't even faze me. I didn't jump on the bandwagon right away, but it just never even crossed my mind. But yeah. Let's see what else is going on in GW or 2 Plus Tough news. I think next week, trying to think of some topics to get us by. Obviously, the Making a Beast Lord video is going to be out. Interviewing CanCon, Beast of Chaos, awesome guy, Beast Lord, Joel, and that's one piece of content. Trying to think of what else to do. So basically, this is always the hardest part of doing this channel, like having a consistent release schedule, because there's this weird week where the books come out, right? Skaven books are going to come out and that kind of stuff, but I need time to do stuff for them. So then I'm just making content to fill in the gap so that I can do the stuff that I really want, which is Skaven Battle Tome reports and stuff like that, or lore reviews, that kind of stuff. I was thinking, and I will ask you 39 fine people, if you would be interested in, I see 40K YouTubers doing this. I just wanted to gain some opinions, but sometimes they'll do as a face down cam, just like you're looking at right now, if you're watching it on YouTube's. And they'll basically just talk about the Battle Tome while flipping through it and kind of go over some of the rules, basics, and things like that. And I was wondering if you would be interested in something like that. So basically, I get the books, sit down, chat about them. People can ask me questions and that kind of stuff. I'll give you a second to respond. But I don't know, I see 40K people doing it all the time. And I'm just kind of curious if people really actually like that kind of stuff. As far as, let's see here. That looks pretty good. Yeah, so basically if you can't see, what I'm doing is all the talons and stuff on the discs are black, and then I go back with Eshin Gray and just do a one streak to kind of like pick out the sharpest edge and make it look a little more deadly. But beyond that, it just needs a wash of Seraphim Sepia, and it all looks pretty stinking good. I'm trying to keep things very, very minimal on all the Zangor stuff. They're just... I do want to focus more on Bulgor and things like that, and so they're probably going to get the bulk of my time later on. Okay, it seems like people are kind of interested in that. It's okay. We will do that. When I get those books, I will sit down and we will just have a long stream going through the various parts of those books. I'm excited. You know, I said before, like as far as like the actual factions themselves, I'm more excited for Flesh Eater Courts. I'm just Skaven are awesome. They're just not my army. But I am so excited to dig in the lore because there are so many people who are so excited for them. I am over the moon at how people like how dedicated a fan base they have. Let's see here. Let's see, Gage Porter, what kind of game mat did you use for the battle report earlier, and where did you get it? Well, Gage Porter, that is actually a game mat of my personal design. To everyone else, this was not a paid advertisement. No, 2 years ago, I actually I wanted to start making mats, like, for a business, and so we made a prototype of one, and then basically shipping got too terrible with Amazon and fulfillment by them. And so if you would like one, you can go check it out. It's just a 4x8 is the only size I own right now, unfortunately. But the link in the description down below will take you to my web store, and that's how I do it. I can only sell them in the U.S. because that's how the shipping works. But yeah, they are a cool little gaming mat. They're quite nice to roll dice on. And I just wanted something that was death themed. It was coming out. But it was before Malign Sorcery or Malign Portents or whatever like that, so I was like, yeah, this would be awesome. We played some great battle reports on there, and they look stunning because they're nice and, yeah, the biggest thing for a battle report, if you are someone who's looking for one and you're not in the US, is pick one that's a little bit, I don't want to say darker, but some of the things I've seen from, not from GameMats.eu, I can't think of the company. It's a European one, but they make their mats too bright, and so your models don't pop. Like, these things are supposed to be the center stage of this hobby, and so like if your table mat is too bright or too hyper detailed or looks too exotic, like all of a sudden it detracts attention away from the models, and I think that's kind of lame. But yeah. We were actually having a discussion about this kind of topic before I got on the air, as far as what I would love from GW this year is that they put as much effort into getting all of Age of Sigmar's battle tomes on the same edition as they did with 40k, meaning that they see the value in everyone playing the same game, basically. Because of that, in addition to new battle tomes like Gutbusters and I don't know what else needs a battle tome, a bunch of stuff needs battle tomes. But in addition to those, going back and bringing forward some of the older battle tomes into a new edition where they can kind of just be like, take another whack at it. We didn't get it right the first time. Let's take another crack. And maybe that'll help. Frankly, I mean, just from a business perspective, maybe help sales, but also just get everyone playing on an equal footing. So in addition to elves and stuff like that, I would love to see Beast Claw Raiders get a new book, or Fire Slayers for sure. Fire Slayers mostly because they're kind of a one-trick pony. It's just Volkite Berserkers. But I was asking guys who were early ones what they would like to see. Someone said Sylvaneth. And that's an interesting choice, because Sylvaneth are doing quite well, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're in line with what the design direction is going forward, which is an interesting point. So I was wondering which factions y'all would like to see get updated in that same way. For me, Beast Claw Raiders is probably the best one. I would love it, and someone float this past me if you think this is absolute insanity, but would the rule that every Beast Claw Raiders model counts as 2 models for the purposes of claiming objectives, would that be broken? Because if you have a unit of 3 of the dudes, or the 3 basic battle line guys they have, right, that would count as 6 models. I don't think that's too unreasonable. Atomic Topher says pants for Fire Slayers 2019. No, never pants. You can't slay fire in pants. Let's see. I'm very happy with the game about that I am, but really thought we were getting new models. Yeah. It depends. Everyone gets something different in this hobby. For me, it's definitely the social aspect of the games and painting. So to me, models, new releases of model for every faction are almost secondary. But I understand 100% when people are a little disappointed by that, especially when other factions get I almost said egregious, but an enormous amount of love. Vinci Varus, Beast Claw Raiders are getting rolled into an Ogre Battle Tome. It's possible, especially after seeing Clan Pestilence doing it. I don't think that's a ridiculous notion by any stretch anymore. I mean, my only caveat is I want them to retain their personality, which we'll get a sense of how well that works once the Skaven book drops and we can see what they did to Pestilence. But, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I was more surprised that they took him out of a general ogre list than they were, I don't know. Pants on Fire Slayers is like shirts on Fiends of Slaanesh. Heresy. That's funny. Let's see, what else is going on? I did crack a little further into, I think it's Black Pyramid by Josh Reynolds. Really enjoying that one. I've gushed at length about how I think he's the best author that they have at Black Library, and I stand by that. But, oh, got some pushback here. Yeah, Beast Claw Raiders are a whole 5 units, and I think it would be healthy for them. Yeah. Yeah, I think playing with, you know, one of the things I love about the Skaven book, and they had it before in the General's Handbook, was manipulating how many models a unit counts as. So like for them, it's bravery, right? When you take a bravery test, instead of getting +1 for every 10 models, you get +2, right? And numbers inspire them more than anything else. And that, you know, that candle burns really, really quickly. At the beginning of the game, you're like, oh, I can take any damage. And then later in the game, you're like, holy crap, I'm out of models. But I think playing with mechanics like that, as far as how many things you count for, yeah, I think that's certainly a cool idea. I'm not sure, because like narrative missions don't tend to use a lot of objectives, so I'm kind of curious as to how that would work in terms of like, you don't want it to be a match play only thing, even if folks play mostly match play, which I don't think is necessarily true. Yeah, you don't want to alienate people who just do narrative stuff, but something like that where they count as being more, like their sheer presence and bulk, which they got those huge mounts they ride. I think it's not unreasonable to say that they count as more than a single model. All right. Another one down. These guys are zooming right along. Scott McLeod, which army has you least interested? Least interested. Well, if we're talking about ones that have battle tomes, Beastclaw Raiders has never interested me. In fact, that's why there's no lore week for them. I'm saving them for last because I don't I don't really have an interest in them whatsoever. Mainly, and it's not because of the models, and it's not because of their competitive scene, all that stuff like that. It's mainly because they came out in this weird time where GW writers kept saying everything was about mystery. They never wanted you to have like a firm grasp of anything in the realms. The same problem with Seraphon, which is like, we're going to give you a whole bunch of theories and hypotheses about their origins, but not actually tell you anything about the faction. And at the end of the book, you're like, cool, but I didn't learn anything. Like, I had nothing to connect to. I didn't personally. I felt that way. Other folks disagree. Other folks love the army. I'm so happy for them. I can't stress enough how legitimately stoked I am that people love that army. Just didn't grab me. So that's a narrative perspective. If you're asking about which armies I like to play the least against, it is skeleton horde focused death armies. Particularly Legion of Nagash. I should actually add that. I just find them grindy. They don't add a lot. I feel like dice rolls against them they aren't fun because they're not productive. That being said, zombie focused Legions of Nagash armies are the most fun thing in the world. Because you're always taking models off, you're slaying stuff, you're bringing them back. It's just cool. Your opponent feels like they're actually contributing to the game. And the thing about Beastclaw Raiders is like, they appeal to me in the sense of I would love an army that just has like 9 models. just really focus on 9 models. It's actually one of the reasons I'm excited about Carriage and Overlords is the boats, right? Here's a big boat with a lot of points. Just paint that for a while and you can not have a good army, but you can have a boat. And so I'm very excited about that. But yeah, the prospect of like painting so few models and then just playing like a scenario game, focus on that. It always sounds exciting to me. Let's see here. I'd like for GW to finalize what factions are staying and going and put the rest. Yeah, I'd agree. I think as a business move, they need to be like, hey, these are the things that we're keeping in our model range. These are the things that are going away. Respond accordingly. And there'll be some hate and there'll be some rage, but it'll pass pretty quickly, I think, once... I don't know. Because there was that brief moment where everyone was like, oh my god, you guys, they took down forest goblins and people had a minor rage. And then everyone, I think, collectively realized we hated those models. And there's always people who have, like, massive old collections. And that is truly unfortunate for them. But for the vast majority of people, the thing about the people with the old collections that... are hurt by that is they probably were not going to buy anything new, which hurts GW's bottom line. And as much as I don't like to think about them in business terms, they're a business. That's what they are, what they do. Kinsey says, I think devoted Sigmar have so much potential in the lore. I have to agree. I'd really love it if they went kind of like a devoted, like the Church Inquisition route with them and made them super scary and this very dark good guy kind of thing. I think that would be spectacular. And it is very 40k, as you point out. But, you know, Inquisitions are also just very human-y, which is super dark and unfortunate, but, you know, it is what it is. Let's see here. I want my old Lizardman lore back instead of depressed cosmic toad with dissociative identity personality disorder. It kind of looks like they are. I don't know. There was rumors of, well, there's that one story in Malign Importance that had spawning pools and things like that. I just want them to be involved more. You know, honestly, like, people are asking, like, what do you want the direction of the lore to go? I just want more stories that involve more factions. By that I mean, what happens typically is that when your faction gets released, you get like a short story or a book that involves you, and that's pretty much it, unless you're like Stormcast or Humans. The Humans have the unfortunate position of being in a ton of books, but then also just no model support, or rule support, I should say, whatsoever. But for everything else, like, how many books do you really read that are come out now that involve, say, Beast Claw Raiders? When's the last time you saw a Beast Claw Raider book? They just don't, and that's a shame. I think, because those are the things that get people invested, right? If you can be like, you know, here's the stuff in the Battle Tome, but the Black Library books, I think, are really where the context comes from, and that's when they get exciting. Like, I didn't care at all about Relictors when AoS set dropped, or the first AoS set dropped, and you read them in those opening first books. I think it was the first of the Realmgate War books, where their Lord Relictor and the Hammers of Sigmar is just an absolute baller. And I was like, yeah, I could play that guy. That guy was cool. And I just don't see that with other factions that are not, I don't know, they're prime sales. So, or Daughters of Cain, where's my novel? Yep, they were included in a short story, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I don't know, there's just not a lot going on there in terms of lore support. All right. Okay, and so what else we got going on here? Oh my goodness, this is a slog. I got 3 more dudes. More discs, I should say. You know, there's a lot of those factions. Someone mentioned they need to flesh out Seraphon in a more concrete way. I think they need to flesh out the first year of Age of Sigmar lore in a more concrete way. Which it did in a grand sense. But I more mean, like, all the factions that came out of that have the same problem. As far as, like, being vague, and a lot of those books already are being replaced. Pestilence is being replaced. Flesh Eater Courts. The Khorne and Stormcast books have been replaced before. Sometimes, in some cases, numerously. So they're getting there. It makes me happy that they're doing that. It just now occurred to me that, yeah, those first few books, with the exception of Seraphon, are all being replaced or have been replaced with something more recent. So that's cool. That's a good sign. Vinci says he's going to write a Daughters of Cain novel to make it legit. Yeah, you should send it to Black Library. They're always taking APLA or acceptance sometimes, I think. I think there's a way to write to them. And every once in a while they do like a writing contest, which I remember I tried to write a Seraphon short story, and then I got like a paragraph in, and I was like, writing is hard. Because I had no direction on like how I wanted to develop the characters and things like that. So I just really wanted a Seraphon book to exist. But basically what I wanted to do is focus on the loneliness of a Slann, which sounds like you wouldn't be into, but that's okay. How isolating an eternity in the void must be. See, as for Black Library support, promoting interest in armies, I can verify the Sisters of Battle Omnibus has me hooked. Yeah, dude, they give you some cool stories. Because I think any battle tome you read, right? Whenever you read a battle tome, every unit in there is the best unit that's ever walked into the battlefield, right? They always pump themselves up so good. But when you read them in a story, they take casualties and they lose people and they become more character-driven rather than just like, here is the Zangor enlightened on disc and they're super baller and they are super baller in the game. But then there's just never a downside in the battle tomes. There's no cost. There's no emotion to it. They just are good. And I think short stories and Black Library novels really add that depth of like, they're good but not invincible. When they lose one, it's a huge deal. And here's why you should care about these characters and that kind of stuff. So I think those kinds of books are super important for adding stakes to an army. And I don't know, just making them cool. Let's see here. Coming along, almost there. Let's see here. I'll write a novel about a straight-laced by the book Salon and his loose cannon Daughters of Cain partner as they fight crime. I am down. Let's see here. Time is now, what is it, 7:30? Okay, cool. Good, I got about 15 minutes left before I gotta step away from the camera for a bit. Gotta get some dinner in me. But you know what? I fixed the internet problem with my live streams. So I am super pumped just to be able to hop in my computer and start streaming again. That was really the thing I wanted to do. Mainly because I wanted to be able to keep up with news things like this. And I'm very excited about that. Going on in the future, probably won't do a full wire reforging thing complete with painting and junk like that every time a new story drops. I'll probably just do a quick video reviewing it. But I wanted to get some painting done. And here's the eternal conflict is like, if I'm sitting here painting, I might as well just turn the camera on. And I end up just not ever painting alone, which is nice. That's really what it's all about. Should probably change the cover art of this to make it not a wire reforging and more of a hobby hangout. Let's see here. Jake and the Fat Frog for your book. Oh yeah, dude. I'm trying to think, what is a word that has Slon in it? That we can make it like a partner in crime, like Mac and Cheese, like a cop named Mac and what, you know what I mean? I don't know. Using Kermit is just too. It's too obvious. It's too easy. You got to earn it. You got to earn the joke. Slon and Slanesh. Yeah. That'd be quite the duo. I think it has to be complete with like, it has to be like one of those like 70s or 80s crime dramas where like they freeze frame and at the end and laugh and things like that. Someone has to have a catchphrase or a gimmick. I'm going to say Slon's is that he can't get out of his chair, obviously. Frog and a Snake is a classic story. Fair enough. My mother never read me classic stories when I was a child, so sounds good to me. I will Google it. Let's see here. Check out the Shootcast bat rep on Rerolling Once. Yeah, dude. I hope that, well, since I know Jack is listening, I hope that they do more, I don't know, gloves off, I guess you could say, battle reports, where they're, I love the narrative stuff. I love going and laughing, but it's kind of fun every once in a while to be like, here's the same guys you like and the same group you like, but hey, here's a context of us trying to be competitive. If nothing else, to prove that competitive people aren't a bunch of D-bags, which is a common perception, but I think is unfortunate. A single Blood Reaver is bigger than my White King on a cork base. Jeez. I haven't actually seen the White King model, but Yeah, the reason I had a Death Army, and the reason I actually got rid of it is because I can paint hordes extremely fast, but I got really tired of like how fiddly they all were. Actually, I have a bunch of Night Haunt for Jess when she is ready to start playing, but I just don't want to paint them. Like they just it seems like a chore to paint them, to be honest with you, because there's how fiddly they are, and they're just not my thing. But eventually I will, because I want to be able to use Night Haunt in battle reports and stuff like that. I think that'd be really, really fun. I think ethereal effects on with what I can do with my editor would be a lot of fun. I'm going to try and get a camera here, a better camera in a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. People seem to like the battle report thing enough that I'm going to try and invest in it and make it a little better. Jack says you can paint hordes fast. I have a whole bunch of ghouls sitting here. Here's what you do, Jack. You bust out your airbrush. You load up Rakarth Flesh in there. Hose it all down with Rakarth Flesh. And then, I'm trying to think of what wash. I don't know. You can do it really, really quickly. That's fundamentally, if I had an airbrush, my Beast Chaos would be done probably by now, because I would just Rakarth Flesh it all. That is the basis of the skin for Gavespawn. It's actually most of the skin for Gavespawn, to be honest with you. They do Rakarth Flesh, a wash of Reichland Fleshshade, and then Rakarth Flesh again for highlights. And if you want, you can do a second highlight of Pallid Witch Flesh, which I just choose not to do because I hate Pallid Witch Flesh. It's like my least favorite paint. And it looks fine. It looks good. But yeah. You know, the thing about painting hordes fast is just finding ways to cheat. And that is what it always comes down to. So for these guys, it was just doing them in one big batch, doing the riders first. And, yeah. Gage Porter said, I tried an ethereal effect on my Morghast Spirits, the Drukai Violet, and Pink Horror highlights. I'm very happy with the results. That's awesome. Super glad you did that. I'm trying to think. I did ghost stuff before. I don't have the model anywhere near me. It would take me a while to go grab it around. But we did basically the rusting effect. It's a very popular one. Nihilic Oxide, that's what it is. And then dry brush with Ulthuan Grey. It looks fantastic. Are you planning to come to the Nova Open? Tentatively. I'm basically going to see how my taxes treat me, and depending on that, I will plan accordingly. But I would love to go to Nova. Nova and Adepticon are the two events that I want to go to at some point in my hobby life. And it would be really nice. It'd be nice to meet people. Yeah. Merchant Prince, for me, speed painting hordes is just about working out an easy scheme, especially using lots of colors that can be always shaded with a single wash. Exactly. Yep, that is the whole thing. And for me, I'll do a mix of colors with different washes. Like the skin is washed with Reichland Fleshshade. Everything else is Nuln Oil, I think. Oh no, the blue and the teal is all washed with Colia Greenshade. But what I find to be the biggest help for painting hordes is not letting there be any downtime. So like whilst the Reichland Fleshshade on the skin is drying, then I'm painting the armor. And when that's dry, the skin's dry, I do a highlight for that, and I do the wash for the armor. And it kind of keep flipping back and forth to be always doing something on the model. The danger is there's always something wet and drying, so you can really mess things up if you're not careful, but that comes with practice. Oops, like that, as I just dropped the model talking about being careful. So yeah. Let's see here. Anyone know if San Antonio has a GW store? I have no idea. But I should know that. My mom lives in San Antonio. It's actually where I'm from, so I should probably know that in case I go back anytime soon. Let's see. I'm trying to think of what there is left to do for these guys before I close it up for the night. One thing, if you want a speed paint tip, is always have your next step. So like if I was going to paint black, I would take my black paint, put it right here, so I sit down, I plop, and I get it all done. I think they're just about done. They just need Hessian Gray. Oh, here it is, right in front of me. And ag accuracy for the wash and the discs. But yeah, I was actually listening to there's a podcast. Oh my gosh, what are they called? They're down in Texas. And they're more competitive, so I'm going to warn you there. The Ever Chosen, an Age of Sigmar podcast. I've been listening to them quite a bit. Absolutely awesome guys. They're competitive folks, but they're trying to get a tournament circuit going in Texas, and it's really cool to listen to. Because it's kind of an ongoing thing as they kind of grow it. So it's cool to listen to that evolve. So if you are in Texas, go for it. Go join in there. They seem like really cool guys. One of them actually just got into the hobby this year. He just went out and bought a ton of Seraphon. He's like, boom. Stephen Chan, Speed Paint Necrons, Spray Lead Belcher, 2 finish. Yes, you are correct. In fact, I was going to paint a 40k army to my highest standard. I picked Space Wolves, but I had, at the time when I decided to do that, a bunch of Necrons. And I was like, I could just paint these Necrons, but then I was looking at paint schemes. I was like, these all look very simple, and the highest standard that I want to push myself to would not be hard to achieve. Let's skip all that, and we'll just I don't know. It's not a fault against Necron players. It's just, I think the scheme they made in the studio stuff, it looks very, very simple, which is incredibly good. You should always have armies that are easy to paint, for sure. It just wasn't for me. Okay, well, with all of that done and out of the way, I actually have to hop off and go grab some dinner with the missus. But thank you all so much for joining me. We talked about the Flesh Eater Court stuff in the beginning, and I'll hope to do more of these kinds of things. I think in the future with news, I'll kind of hop in, do a quick news segment, and hop off. But yeah, this has been super exciting, and I'm so stoked for these 2 factions. What you can look forward to as the week comes on is next week. There'll be lore videos like that, but nothing about Skaven and Flesh Eater Courts, because then the next week I should be able to actually have the book, and I'll power through with Skaven lore. We'll start with Skaven, and then we'll jump into Flesh Eater Courts if there's anything new, which I hope there is. So, as always, thank you all so much for joining. Oh, sorry, wrong one. There we go. Thank you all so much for joining me. I look forward to talking to you all very, very soon. Happy wargaming.